Good morning, and how are you today? I have an awesome mead recipe here today. Today we are going to be making a lemon and ginger mead. Now this mead is fantastic for those colder nights when you're feeling a bit poorly, when you fancy a honey and lemon and ginger drink to soothe your throat, to help your cold. This mead hits the spot perfectly, and as well it has that alcohol content that really helps you settle down for the night and makes you feel a heap better. Now this mead can be drunk quite young and quite soon after it's finished fermenting and clearing. But like a lot of meads, the longer you leave it, the better the results will become. So if you can lay a few bottles of this mead down for a year or so, it will really be fantastic. And as usual, the recipe is written up in my website, so follow the link down below and it'll take you to the full recipe, ingredients and method for making this wonderful lemon and ginger mead. So what do we need to make this wonderful lemon and ginger mead? Well, the first thing we need is a decent knuckle of ginger. Now this is where your judgment comes in. If you are a fan of ginger and that heat and that spice that ginger gives off, use a bigger chunk. But if you're only after a slight bite to the mead, use a smaller chunk. But personally, I like a decent sized chunk, one that fits nicely in the palm of your hand. And as well as the ginger, you want 4 lemons and 3 pounds of honey. That's about 1.5 kilos worth. Now this mead is going to be 1 gallon of medium sweet mead. If you like a nice dry, slightly lower alcohol level mead, use 2 pounds worth, that's 1 kilo. But if you want a really sweet, really strong mead, use 4 pounds worth. Personally, I prefer my meads on the medium sweet level, so I use 1.5 pounds of honey. But make this recipe according to your taste buds. You know how you like your drinks, so play around with the variations of the ginger, the honey, the lemon. But I will include all the variations down in my website below. Now this mead is relatively simple to make. You can make it all in your 1 demijohn and within half an hour. The first step of this recipe is to slice and dice your ginger into small little chunks. Place your chopped ginger into a saucepan and bring it to the boil, and then let it simmer on a medium heat for about 20 minutes. You want to make a tea from the ginger. You want to extract all that juice away from the chunks. So simmer it for about 20 minutes. Whilst your ginger is simmering away in about 1 litre of water, you want to grab your clean, sterilised, sanitised demijohn, and then we'll move on to the next wonderful step, which is chopping and squeezing the juice from the lemons into your demijohn. And then you want to grab your honey. And I do find the better the quality of the honey, the better the end product is going to be. I really don't mind using El Cheapo honey to make mead. I really don't think paying more for honey is worth the end result, personally. But if you want to use a higher quality honey, you will get a higher end product. So you want to pour your honey into the demijohn on top of that lemon juice. Because I'm using set honey, I have warmed my honey through earlier. I put it on top of the stove just to loosen it up and make it runnier so it can run into the demijohn more easily and better. But if you're using runny honey, you shouldn't have any issues at all. Oh, that's looking awesome. All that honey is mixing with the lemon juice inside the demijohn. And now it's time to add your ginger tea to the mix, to the party. So just pour in your ginger tea. Keep out the chunks where you can and get all that lovely juice and all that lovely tea and the ginger nuts and ginger flavour into the demijohn. If your ginger tea is still warm, it's going to help the honey dissolve better. And then you want to grab yourself a bung and give your demijohn a really good shake so the lemon and the ginger tea can infuse and mix in with the honey. Now this will really make you feel better if you have a sore throat or a bit of a cold. Just don't drink it before you drive or before you go to work. And then we want to top up to the shoulder of the demijohn with cold water. Now this will be quite a vigorous fermenter, so you don't want to fill the demijohn too full at this stage. Once that initial fermentation has taken place and it's been vigorous and erupted everywhere, you can then top up to the neck with cold water. And you want to give it a really good stir. Get all that honey working in with the lemon and the ginger and the water. Oh, sticky, sticky, sticky everywhere. I love honey, I love mead. If you haven't made a mead yet, do so. Meads are very similar to wine, only they have this luscious, rich texture and mouthfeel. They're not always sweet, they can be dry, just like a wine, it depends on how you make them, but they are well worth making. And generally, if you can make a wine from an ingredient, like blackberry or rhubarb, you can make a mead from it as well. So if you're wondering what to do with all your rhubarb harvest, or all those blackberries you've gone to pick, and you've made wine, you made more wine, you made lots more wine, make a mead. You won't regret it at all. And into your delicious ginger and lemon mead, it's now time to add your yeast. Wherever you can, try to use a mead yeast or a yeast that would work well with honey. Because honey is slightly different in its chemical formula to sugar, it does need a slightly different style yeast to work its way through it. And because the honey is different to sugar, you will need to add a yeast nutrient, just to give your yeast a good head start at digesting all that honey and turn it into alcohol. I am using a mead yeast by Loof. I really rate this company. I will put the link to the company down in my description below, but their mead yeast is fantastic and also comes with yeast nutrient that is designed to help meads ferment really well. So sprinkle in your chosen yeast into your demijohn and then insert an airlock into the demijohn. Make sure there's some liquid in your airlock as well. That's always a must. You never want that airlock to run dry. As for what liquid you put into your airlock, there are pros and cons about water, alcohol, glycerin, sanitization solution. There's all sorts you can use. And I'll link a video up by here about what types of liquids are best to use for your airlock. And now you want to set your demijohn with your honey and ginger mead aside in a warm place for 3 or 4 days whilst that initial vigorous fermentation takes place. And come back to it and top it up to the neck level of the demijohn. And then let it carry on fermenting. I always find that meads do take their time to ferment, so don't rush it. Just keep an eye on that airlock level and forget about it until it has fermented to dry. Check it with your hydrometer and see where it is. Then once it's done its thing of turning all that honey into alcohol, it will start to clear. Once it's cleared, you want to let it mature for 3, 4, 5 or 6 months. The flavours will enhance, they will mingle, they will become better the longer you leave it. And then bottle it, and this will be a great pick-me-up when you're feeling run down or poorly. And also this lemon and ginger mead is fantastic with seafood and fish dishes, but it is well worth making for that medicinal pick-me-up when you're poorly feeling. If you fancy making this lemon and ginger mead, give me a like down below, and why don't you check out this mead recipe up by here. And I will see you all really soon. You have fun now.